Hello and welcome to a new episode of CultureWise Chats. This is the first video of 2021 and I hope so far you're having a healthy and safe year. With this video, you will notice that the focus is shifting from the previous ones. I will still have featured guests, but it's going to be more of a discussion about cultural intelligence, cultural tips, and human skills that are helpful to you as the viewer whenever you find yourself working or leading in a different environment than the one you are used to. Notice that this doesn't necessarily have to be in a totally different country where the language is different and the traditions are different. It could also be in the same country where you are living, but with a different cultural environment. And if you have any experience that you can share with us, you can leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to introduce my wonderful guest, Alexandra Paucescu. Alexandra is a diplomatic wife. She is the author of a wonderful book, which I'm looking forward to read, by the way. It's called Just a Diplomatic Wife. And she is an NGO volunteer and intercultural communicator. Hello, Alexandra.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Oh, yes.
Finally, to be able to talk in person.
Yes, definitely. So nice to see you. Alexandra and I have been friends virtually since the pandemic. We got really close via Instagram and other social media methods. And Alexandra and I share the passion of intercultural intelligence. And today, I'm going to let Alexandra talk about herself, but let me just give you a brief intro. She is Romanian, and her husband is Romanian, and her children are Romanian, but she currently lives in Berlin. Correct, Alexandra?
Right.
And they have moved
around the world currently, so.
Yes, and they have moved a lot with her husband's job position. And we're going to discuss with Alexandra the different features and the different ways of leading across cultures, because Alexandra has a lot of experience that could be beneficial, and we're gonna dive into the conversation with her. By the way, I'm gonna show you my cup of tea, my cup of coffee. I'm a really fan of tea, that's why I'm saying coffee. This is Lebanese coffee, and this is
I also have one. Yes. So I will join you.
Yes, perfect. That's what we agreed on. So this is Lebanese coffee in a traditional, well, not the real traditional, but this is common to find in offices when you go to meet people. This is the cup that you will get. There's another traditional cup which I don't have, but I have a similar one. I'm just gonna show you to have an idea. It looks like this, but it's in porcelain, and it's called chefe. This is not the chefe, but this is as close as I could get in the house now with the lockdown. And you can see that I'm not a very big fan of coffee. I don't have the whole traditional
variety,
set, but this would do. So can you tell us about your coffee before we dive into the conversation?
I'm not, just to start, I'm not a very big coffee drinker, because I usually have a problem with caffeine. If I drink too much, or if I have a cup of coffee later in the afternoon, I won't sleep for sure for at least one night.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, but from time to time it helps. So my cup of coffee today is this one. It's not traditional Romanian, sorry. Actually, it's made in Germany.
Okay, so, but is it? Do you serve it in this this type of cup usually?
Yes. My husband is a coffee lover. He has too much coffee, if you ask me, per day. So he has a variety of cups, so all kinds of. I usually like very strong coffee, and the thing is that although as I said, I'm not a very heavy coffee drinker. I have a very close relationship with coffee because my family, my grandparents who raised me, and my parents also drink a lot of coffee. So So I've seen this habit from the very, very early age. And I remember, for example, my grandparents used to do it the traditional way that is mostly used in Romania. They used to boil it on the stove and put there a lot of coffee. So they like strong coffee too.
Yeah. I can
And they
understand for people who like coffee, it's never too strong. They enjoy it. They have a couple of glasses per day. But as you said, I'm not a coffee drinker either, so it's too strong for me. But it's good to have it to show people the culture of the country, because in Lebanon, usually people are more coffee drinkers than tea drinkers. And I suppose that's how it is in Romania as well, Alexandra. People drink more coffee than tea.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and
And they like it. They don't like it. Let's say the American way. So they like the strong one. So they boil it themselves. I mean, of course, nowadays we have all these machines. So it's a lot easier to do it and quicker. But the traditional way, my father, for example, every time he visits us, he prefers the same old way. He said, "No, no, no. I will make my own coffee. I don't need all these machines. Let me do it for myself."
Traditional way. Same here. Same thing with the coffee. It got we have new machines with capsules, but the traditional way is always the preferred way for people who love coffee. And I wanted to just mention that in Lebanon, when you go to a meeting for the first time, even when you're a foreigner, you are offered coffee. Of course, nowadays people are more and more offering choices or other sorts of drinks. You have choices, but in case you don't and you are offered coffee, it's good to take it and appreciate it. How is the thing in Romania? Is it okay to refuse coffee if you're not a coffee drinker?
Because of my own experience, I usually, because I have a lot of diplomatic events, for example, I always try to offer coffee and tea both. So there are a lot of people who choose tea instead. So I always like to have these possibilities available. But coffee, it's a very social thing, especially in Romania, because I remember when I was little, in the morning, my grandparents would prepare coffee and they would always have somebody over for a cup of coffee with a little cake beside it. So it was very social, and it would last like for 2 hours, like a small conversation with a cup of coffee in front. So it was a very cozy habit. Nowadays, of course, everybody is on the run, and maybe they don't have enough time for that. So it's not the same. But I repeat, for all the events that I host in my house, I usually offer both tea and coffee, so everybody can decide whatever they want to choose. And also I offer milk and sugar and honey, and so it's like
important. I mean, these are accompaniments with tea, and similarly in Lebanon. I mean, it's interesting to see how countries are adapting to the new norms everywhere. To the traditional drink is coffee, but you are also offered something else. In Lebanon, we have something that's called white coffee. It is not really coffee.
Never tried it.
It's white. It's water boiled and with drops of flower blossom. It's really nice. It's very light for people who don't want to drink Lebanese black coffee. They drink the white coffee.
And maybe I should try it one day. It sounds interesting and benefit for me, maybe.
It's nice when you finish your meal and you want to digest. It's a good digestive drink afterwards. But the point is that everywhere people are being more considerate towards these things. They are continuing their traditions, but also adapting to new norms within the country itself. Now, coming back to the fact that you live in Germany, Alexandra, and obviously you have lived in other countries with your husband's position, but what in your case was the strongest coping mechanism that you always use when you go to another country? What is your strength as a person, as a leader in your field as a diplomatic wife? What advice do you give to people who have to move, and sometimes they find themselves in disadvantaged situations when they don't know anyone and they want to uh, you know um, build relationships? And what skill can you give as an example?
Advices, there are a lot of advices, and you can read books about it. And I guess the more experience you get, you learn how to take people. I would say one of the best advices that I usually give, also in my lectures, and I also written that in the book. It's that you never have to compare people. I mean, when you move from place to place, don't be judgmental, and don't have prejudices about the place you are going to live in, and don't compare the people there with the people you used to from another country, because everybody has its own sets of not really values, but everybody was raised in a certain way, and maybe what's common and what's usual to you, it's not usual to others. So don't take it also too personal. But for example, in Germany, just to give you a small example, people are at the beginning are not very friendly and open to foreigners. So it's not really easy to relate to somebody. And at the beginning, if you are not aware of all these things, you might think that it's something personal. They have something with you. You are not the right person. So you might question your own approach. And once you realize that this is the way they are built, so it takes time to form relationships, to build a trust, and the bridge between you and the others, you get to relax a little bit and take it easier and slowly, and you just build from brick by brick this whole relationship. So
How long
I
did
guess
that take for you,
sorry.
the adaptation? You said that in the beginning it was not very like you expected it, but
Yeah.
how long afterwards did this
I would say in Germany it took me a lot longer than in other places, but usually I think as you move from place to place, it takes at least, I think, 6 months to settle in a place, and this applies also when you go back to your own country. So this might surprise some people, and I usually heard this thing that, okay, when you go back, it's a lot easier because you already know what you expect. You were raised in that country, so you already know all the customs and everything. Maybe that's the case. So for sure, you are more familiar with the way things are going in that part of the world. But on the other hand, when you live for a few years in another country, you are changing too. So when you go back, you're not the same person that left, and also you are not going to find the same people that you left behind. So all people change in time. So
people change, but people who travel, they acquire a different mindset. And I know from my experience as well, when I traveled, I used to live here when I was a child, and then I moved to the US, and then I came back, I was changed, and then I moved again, I went to the UK again, I was changed. It's, as you said, you are never the same anymore. And it's always a positive change, though. Some changes might be negative, some traumatic changes in some people, but it's all a journey. And the journey that one has when one travels to a different country is enriching, because you learn a lot about other cultures and countries, but at the same time you learn about yourself. You learn about what you are tolerant of, what you enjoy adapting to, what it is that you want to learn more. And obviously the more you learn, the less you know. There is so much to explore around the world, and culture is something that is it's a very, very wide subject. You even have difference in cultures, difference in the way of doing things within the same country. So when one travels and comes back, it's like an enlightenment in a way, that you are in the same environment that you were before, but you don't see things anymore the way you used to. Your mindset has changed, your approach to people, to relationships, to doing things has changed, and this is a wonderful experience. I'm sure that you don't regret at all being able to travel and having this experience. Sometimes it's challenging, as you said. It's not always easy, even when you read or you have heard about different skills that you can use, cultural intelligence that you have to be aware of. Even so, people might surprise you, not because they are mean, but because they have a different approach than you. And as you said, the important thing is not to assume and not to judge. I always say in my trainings that one important thing is uh, uh, um, to use empathy and try to understand the other person, try to feel with the other person, and try to see things from another perspective than yours. So when you travel a lot, you learn a lot. And what is something that you just discovered lately? When you travel a lot and you live in different countries, you learn. What's the last thing that you learned lately from living abroad?
Um, for example, one of the things that I learned since I came here, maybe it will help me also in the future,
Yeah.
is to guard my finances better.
Well, nowadays it's not very difficult to do that with the
No,
pandemic
and
and the
it's
lockdown.
normally because I'm an economist, so I studied economy, I studied management, so I should know better about this. But I was not very good with with my own finances. I was never, and
Experience is
ever since I came here, I saw that Germans have a certain approach to this subject. So maybe I learned
Yeah,
some good
can you
things
tell us
about
about that?
it. Sorry.
Can you tell us about that approach that Germans have about their finances?
They don't buy that much. They don't. I don't think they are like impulse buyers.
Mm.
That maybe, for example, Latin people are, as I am. So
Yeah,
they guard and
we are too
think
in
about
Lebanon.
it. Yeah, and I think this is a very good thing. They are also very passionate about climate, protecting the climate, and also this fast fashion thing. It's not their thing at all. So it's something that I appreciate at a certain point, because I like to dress up nicely. I have all these events, or I used to have all these events, because now everything
Hopefully
sadly
soon.
is on hold. But I hope they will come back. So
Yeah.
they have a different approach on that, and I've seen that at any level of society. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. You are raised in a certain way, and I see also for my kids in school, because they go to a German school, so they are raised to appreciate things, not to throw anything once. I mean, they try to fix it. I've seen on the internet, I mean, a while ago, this thing that it was these beautiful pictures with two older people, and they were saying that in our age things used to be repaired, not to be thrown away when they were broken. So this is something that I think this new generations, or our generations too, should learn more. I mean, you try to fix things in general.
Yeah.
It applies. It can also apply to relationships, for example. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a good advice.
So, yeah.
But I would like to come back to what we were talking a little bit earlier, and they say that you are the sum of your experiences. So when you travel a lot, you acquire, as you said, a lot of experience, and also you shape in a different way. So a lot of people, sadly, from back home, for example, they don't understand this change. I mean, it might be taken as you are maybe or arrogant, you change because you acquired a certain status, or whatever other reasons they might think you have. for the change. So
Yes.
not a lot of people understand this transformation that we go through, and that's why I think it's even more important to explain it to make people aware of this. People who travel a lot and who are quite a lot. So especially with the pandemic and with being more active online, I discovered so many people and so nice ladies all over the world who travel and who are maybe in the same situation as I am, or expats or diplomats' wives, or something like this, trailing generally. And I discovered that so many people who live a similar kind of experience, and you can learn from any of them. I mean, they have incredible stories, all of them.
True, true. And this is why cultural intelligence is so important, to be able to know how to cope and how to relate to the people you are talking to. And this comes back to going back or returning to your own country. It's true that you would have improved or shaped your personality, but when you return, you have to be culturally aware of your experiences and how to relate to the people that you used to speak to them differently. And so this is why when you come back, you are changed, but you have to know how to level with people. And this can happen in your hometown or in the countries that you go and you live and you work. So this is why nowadays focusing a lot on cultural intelligence and being able to level with people, to know what communication methods you have to use is really the most important thing, like the solution to communicate across cultures. You have to know how to, in a way, talk to them and see what it is that gets to their understanding. Because maybe sometimes when you come and you talk to them about an experience that you had and they have no idea what it is, well, you have to see how to share that experience so that they enjoy what you are saying. And that's the key, to know how to level with people, because you're not gonna change anymore. You cannot unlearn what you have learned through your travels, but you have to know how to level. It's like when you are a parent in the house and you have children from different generations. You have an 8-year-old, you have a 13-year-old. You're not gonna give the information to the 13-year-old like you would to the 8. And it's the same thing. It's not the same generation, but it's a different culture. You have to know how to adapt and cope. And many times people tell me, well, why should I be the one who has to change my methods? Why should I level with them? Why can't they level? Sometimes because you have learned more, because you have more experience, that gives you a certain maturity, and it gives you a certain edge that you can use positively, of course, to be able to relate. And you just said that sometimes people get the perception that one who travels a lot becomes arrogant. Well, that's what we need to avoid when we are culturally intelligent. We take those skills, and yet we are able to communicate in a way that gets to the mindset of the person. That's the key thing, to be able to take the tools and see how to manipulate them in a positive way.
And stay humble. This is one of the best advices that one of my professors in university gave me a long time ago, and I try to follow it. And
humility,
especially in my kind of life. I mean, I meet people from all over the world, and you have to be very careful. Everybody has its own sensibilities. It's very tricky if you don't study a little bit, at least when you go to an event where you're invited, for example, at an embassy, just to try to to just read a bit about their customs, what's allowed to do or not, how they usually, for example, how they what do they eat, how do they greet each other, do they touch each other, do they greet them by hand, do they so there are all these things that you have to take into consideration, and you learn it bit by bit. One aspect which is very relevant, especially to these diplomatic gatherings, is the perception of time, which is completely different around the world. So it's like I'm from Romania, which is a Latin country. So I would maybe sometimes think that we are not quite on time, like Italian, and we like to talk a lot, but maybe like 5 minutes are acceptable.
But in Germany, the time is very crucial. You know, when
in Germany, also it's like, and also for the Asian countries is the same. I mean, you have to be, when you're invited somewhere and it's something written there, so you have to be on time. But on the other side, for example, I've been to some gatherings for countries, for embassies in the Middle East, for example, and of course it was a relaxed thing, so it wasn't like a very important event, or and people took it okay. It was written there like 12, but yeah, it can be 12:30, it can be 12:15.
That's a very good point that you raised, Alexandra. But you know, I've had a different experience when we were traveling with my husband for different formal occasions. I noticed that the culture of the country affects for the time concept, but when it is about protocol related events all around the world, they really try to make a point to respect that protocol. And even in Lebanon, I've had this experience because you know, the presidential palace has its protocol procedures and all the other formal houses. But when it is that formal, I think all countries try to really make a point to respect, because they have guests, VIPs from all around the world, and there is a certain protocol that protocol standard that has to be kept. But when you are in a more less diplomatic or less formal occasions, then
not less diplomatic, but less formal. I mean, when you have like lunch gathering or just a friendly gathering, the
time is related to the VIP who would come in. You know, it's like even if all the guests are there, if the VIP or the guest of honor hasn't arrived, you know, they would still wait. I mean, this happens in all cultures. The VIP is the most important guest, but in less formal events, they would still make people wait for the VIP to arrive. And that's more in the relational cultures rather than cultures which are based more on you know, a methodic way of doing things and traditional way of having things done in formal events. It's really interesting to see how things are different in different parts of the world, but there is a certain norm all around the world that is, you know, getting more integrated everywhere. Whether you are in Eastern Europe, Western Europe, in the Middle East, there is a certain way, as we are seeing that, you know, traditions are continuing, but there is a certain norm that everyone is adopting because of, you know, the globalization, and because of how cultures are integrating and people are more aware of the differences and trying to cope and trying to make the other feel better. And that's what is key, you know, to have empathy, not to be judgmental, and try to see commonalities, common grounds. That's what, after all, brings us together. You know, we are all different. We have our differences. We have our different opinions, different approaches. But if we focus more on the commonalities, then we are able to bring ourselves together and be more harmonious. That's the key thing, I guess, at the end of the day, from your experience, from my experience, to see that we have to focus on the positivity, on the common things, on the goodwill of trying to get along with each other, right?
Right. That's very well said. I mean, I always say that, no matter from which part of the world we are after all humans. So we have to get along and to find a way to get along. And I also say in my, for example, in my webinars, I also give this example, when we were little and we, I don't know, but if you heard of it, but I know it was quite common in a lot of countries. There was this game where a lot of people were staying in a line and everybody was whispering some words to the other. And it was always so funny when we afterwards we said what was the first word and the last word that came up. So it was like most of the time it was completely different thing. And this is what happens also most of the times in communication. You start with a message, and because of all these differences that people have and different cultural background and all these customs and because they are raised in different ways, they might understand and interpret the message differently. And this is where conflict appears. So we have to be very careful how we transmit everything, because we are responsible. The responsibility of delivering the correct messages with us, stays with us. So we have to find the right tools to send the right message. And it's not always easy. So you have to be patient.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we all go through. I mean, we all have our own challenges and the internal challenge that we have, but it's all a learning process, and it's part of experience, and this is life, and we enjoy it. We take whatever comes our way, and we try to see the positive in it. It was lovely having you, Alexandra. I'm really happy that we had this chat. I'm
Me
sure
too.
our viewers really gonna enjoy when they listen to this episode. It's wonderful. And if they want to get in touch with you, how can they? You're on social media.
I'm on Instagram under my name, Alexandra Paucescu. They can also find me on Facebook. I have a page which is related to the book. The name is Just a Diplomatic Spouse, which is the same name as the book has. So they can reach me there, or just Google my name or the name of the book on internet, and they will find plenty of information. Yeah, and also maybe articles that I've written for various magazines. Most of them, they are related to diplomatic life. So if they're interested in that, they can for sure find it.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It was a lovely coffee with you this morning. So thank you.
Definitely. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye. You too. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's your etiquette-wise tip for today's episode. When you travel or move to another country, focus on learning and enjoying the experience. And remember to respect the differences, because no two cultures are the same and no one culture is superior to another.